In this simulation, we are going to study patterns of reaction. What do we mean by pattern? The best way to explain this is by showing you an example. And one example of patterns is the following. Acid plus metal oxide produces metal salt plus water. Remember, water is H2O. For example, you can see in the first equation, hydrochloric acid plus sodium oxide gives sodium chloride plus water. Identify the acid, metal oxide, and salt in the first word equation. So, which one of the two reactants or the two products is the acid? That is correct. Hydrochloric acid represents the acid in this pattern. Which one is the metal oxide? That is correct. Sodium oxide is a metal oxide. This is because it's made up of a metal, which is sodium, and of course an oxide, sodium oxide. This leaves us with sodium chloride being the metal salt, the product, the main product of this reaction. It's called a metal salt because it's made up of sodium, metal, and chloride from hydrochloric acid. Most salts contain a metal bit, like sodium, and an acid bit, like chloride. And that is why we see this pattern in chemistry, where acids and metal oxides produce metal salts and water. Now look at the second word equation. Complete the equation by dragging the correct word from the list at the bottom of the screen to replace the question mark. We have sulfuric acid plus lithium oxide giving a question mark sulfate plus water. Sulfuric acid is the acid in this equation. Lithium oxide is the metal oxide. And we have to deduce the first part of the name of the metal salt. The second part is sulfate. And the first part should be the metal. So what do you think is the name of this metal salt? That is correct. Lithium sulfate is the metal salt product of this equation because the metal is lithium and sulfate is the acid bit of the metal salt. Let's take a look at the third equation. Nitric acid plus potassium oxide gives two products. What are they? That is correct. The first product, which is the metal salt, is potassium nitrate. Why is that? Potassium is the metal, and it comes from the metal oxide reactant, which is potassium oxide. As for nitrate, it's the acid bit of the metal salt, and it comes from the acid, nitric acid. The second product is water, because following the pattern that you can see above, acid plus metal oxide gives metal salt plus water. Moving on to the fourth equation. Try to fill up the reactants and the products of this equation, knowing that it follows the pattern of acid plus metal oxide gives metal salt plus water. Excellent! The first reactant is an acid. And since the metal salt, which is the product, contains the word sulfate, this automatically means that the acid consists of sulfur. And the only option we have here is sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid with magnesium oxide produces a metal salt. This metal salt is made up from a metal bit and an acid bit. The acid bit is sulfate, and the metal bit is magnesium, and it comes from the metal oxide in the reactants. The second product is water. Water is one of the products in this pattern.